Today's date is March 18th, 2014. We're at Cypress Grove Nursing Home, Newburgh, Indiana, and we have the privilege to have two people to interview today. The person on the left is James Bruce. The person on the right is Rose Farr Bruce. And we're going to first ask questions of Mr. Bruce, we'll call him Jim, about how he was recruited in World War II, what he thought about his recruitment time and his enlistment in the United States Marine Corps, where he went to boot camp, then when he went to war in Iwo Jima. And he was injured in Iwo Jima, and we will talk about those experiences. We will first talk and ask questions, and Rose, we will talk to her about her thoughts about World War II and her fear of World War II, her fear of Japanese and the Germans running over the country. But we will ask that in a moment. So Jim, let's first go with you. Tell us about how you were recruited into the Marine Corps, why you joined the Marine Corps. What was the reason for your joining the Marine Corps?
Well, I've always wanted to be a Marine. I thought there was nothing like the Marine Corps.
And why did you love the Marine Corps so much, Jim? What was the reason? As a little kid, had you seen people that were Marines, or why did you think the Marines were so good?
Yes, and then another thing, they always looked so nice on uniforms. I always thought the uniform was the prettiest thing I ever saw.
Yes, they were the spiffiest of all uniforms. People would come home on leave in World War II. Lots of people didn't have enough money to afford nice clothes, but military uniforms in World War II made young men and women look absolutely tremendous in their uniforms.
Yes.
Oh, that's interesting.
Now, Jim, after you were recruited, it was recruitment time about 1941 after the bomb dropped on December 7th. You decided to enlist in Indianapolis as opposed to being recruited, because if you'd been recruited or drafted in the military, you might have gone to another service. Tell us about going from Evansville to Indianapolis.
I can't quite,
Remember?
I remember.
But you enlisted in Indianapolis, Indiana.
Yeah.
And then after you enlisted in Indianapolis, Indiana, do you remember when you went to boot camp? Did you go to boot camp in Parris Island, or did you go to boot camp out in California or somewhere else?
I think it was California.
In California.
I think, but I don't.
Not sure.
Yeah, I can't remember, but
Yeah.
I think it was someplace in
And we were surprised.
Yeah.
It was so far away,
Yeah, well, and a lot of the Marine Corps Recruit Center in San Diego. There was also
That's it.
in San Diego. There's a Marine Corps Recruit Center. So that's that was where they boot camp, and it's still there. And Marine Corps is San Diego. There's still boot camp. If you watch the movie Gomer Pyle, that's filmed right there on the camp in San Diego. But they also have one at Camp Pendleton, also Parris Island for East Coast, because you would have thought he would have gone to East Coast Parris Island, but they sent him to California.
Oh,
that's
yeah.
right.
Now, when you were in California at boot camp, was that very easy to get through boot camp in San Diego?
No, because there's so many things you had to watch out for.
It was pretty strenuous. One of the most strenuous Marine Corps boot camps, about 6 to 8 weeks, and you probably lost some weight then, and it was tough.
Yeah.
Then after that, they put you on a ship and sent you to out to Hawaii or to Iwo Jima. Can you tell us anything about the ship that you got on to go out to start participating in the war? Do you remember any of that?
Remember about the ship?
Yes.
Well, I remember it was large, and you had to go in and make a turn to the right. And then next thing you knew, here you were up for the group of men It was your ride. It was
Your company, the company of the Marine.
That's right.
You
Yeah.
had different companies in each Marine Corps. Yes.
Yeah.
Then you were on this ship, and once you got on the ship, you went to Iwo Jima. Can you tell us about what happened in Iwo Jima? Iwo Jima's invasion was, I believe, in February 1945. It was one of our bloodiest invasions in the war. We lost, I think, close to 24,000 men and women, 5,700 Americans, and 17,000 were injured. And you were the one that injured and lost part of your leg.
Yeah.
And you were up on Mount Suribachi, or to the base of Mount Suribachi. It's a famous, Suribachi is so famous because we have 7 Marines raising a flag. There's none of them living today. There were 7 that raised a flag, and the picture is a famous picture, and it's by a guy named Rosenberg. And there's many. There's even a type of statue in Washington D.C. of Mount Suribachi. Can you tell us? You were at the base of Mount Suribachi when they invaded it. Can you tell us anything that you might have remembered about Suribachi and how scared you were? And there were 5 of you in that little area, and you had the telephone, and other man had the wire, and that's when something happened. Do you remember any of that, Jim?
I'm trying to think.
But that's when you. That's okay. That's hard to remember a lot of these things, Jimbo. Look at the camera. That's hard to remember.
See, I was a kid.
Yes.
I was a little bit older than some of the other boys.
Uh-huh.
I call them boys
Right.
because they just a little bit younger than I was or something, you know. But I enjoyed being in the Marine Corps. And it was really an honor to be in there.
Yeah.
And I worked hard to get what I did. I didn't make I don't know, I made a sergeant for, you know, I moved to different positions.
You moved up in ranks very quickly.
Yeah, right, yeah.
What year were you born, Jim?
1915,
And what was your birth date?
June the 11th.
Okay. So June 11th, 1915. So you went in the military. You were about 26.
It won't miss it much.
Yeah. And that's some of the guys were a little younger. They were 18 to 22, but you were probably one of the more mature ones in your group. Now, after you were wounded, did they take you to a ship or to a hospital or Hawaii or to California, or do you remember any of the hospitals?
Yeah, down to Hawaii.
Uh-huh.
And down in the, I think it was, it's hard to think about what she's in because I don't know what it was.
Yeah, they took a lot of troops to Hawaii, but you lost your leg and lost the
I
function.
lost part of the right leg.
Yeah,
I didn't lose it all now.
from knee down. But you lost your knee down from you were in a foxhole at the foot of Mount Suribachi, and the shrapnel hit the foxhole and killed some other people in the foxhole.
Yeah.
And injured you, and you were lucky. How did you prevent from bleeding to death? Did you put a tourniquet, or one of your buddies put a tourniquet over you?
I think they put
A bandage?
some kind of a band-aid like over
Yeah.
it.
This is the war wound up on the thigh, up in this area, the thigh wound, and then he has a prosthesis down lower. But most of his right, or part of his right thigh muscle has been removed, and so that inhibited some of his walking. Now move back a little bit, and then on the lower part of the leg, he has a prosthesis below the knee.
Yeah, it was rolled off.
Yes, he lost part of his knee. So this man has lived for close to 65 years without part of his leg, and he was had a full occupation at Bell Telephone for many years subsequent to that. Is that right? How many years did he work at Bell Telephone?
How many years did you do your whole
Okay, Kat.
company, hon?
You mean since I was with them or while I worked with them?
How many years with them about? Yeah.
Oh, that I worked for them.
Yes.
Let's see, 20, I say 20 years.
20 plus years at,
Yeah.
at the phone company. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, on behalf of the United States.
I got transferred so many times, and I really, well, I don't know, I just moved along, you know,
Yes.
and I worked hard.
Well, you worked for the telephone company. You had the telephone at Mount Suribachi. So you had a telephone there, and you had a telephone in the phone company for another 20 years. So you were into those telephones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna, on behalf of the United States and the citizens of the United States, we'd like to thank both of you for supporting the United States, and most of you, Jim, for supporting the United States and our freedom. And without people like you, we wouldn't have such a nice country. This is a picture of the handsome couple about 10 years ago, about in the year 2000, you see between both of them. Okay, this is James R. Bruce, and this is his memory box here. You see USMC, and we're going to go through most of the emblems here. This first one is the 5th Marine Division. That was the division he was in during World War II. And there's a picture of him in that beautiful Marine uniform. You look at that spiffy little uniform there, one of the nicest uniforms we have in the service. Then there's his Purple Heart. A Purple Heart is given to an individual that's injured in war. And there's the Marine Corps emblem. Marine Corps means emblem is Semper Fi. Semper Fi is always faithful. And you're faithful to your company. Your company is usually 50 or more in the company, and you are always faithful to those men or women and women in your company. And he noted that when he was in World War II, that people took care of him and when he was injured, and they were always faithful to him. There's the Navy Commendation Medal that he received, and then the next medal was World War II Occupation Medal. That was the color in the official medal of World War II Occupation. And if he wore his ribbons, this is what the ribbons look like from each one of those medals. Now, if you see his rank there, he achieved the rank of sergeant in World War II, and he achieved it fairly quickly.